To be talking about the Burakumin. So, the Burakumin are an important part of Japan's history as it sheds light onto the dark history of how Japanese people treat those who are ranked at the very bottom of their social hierarchy. Even though the caste system was abolished in 1871, the Burakumin have faced and still continue to face discrimination and abuse from society. So during the 17th century, Japan fell into the four-class system from Confucianism, which created a hierarchy of people and separated people based on the level of importance of their job, as you can see in this diagram here. And although they are Japanese, since they partake in work that is considered impure, they are considered outcasts. And so some of the work that they partake in include leather work, butchering, executioning, and in Japan's religious belief of Buddhism back then, or still, to deal with the dead is a sin since death taints them and makes them impure. So since these people are seen as outcasts and lack a sense of belonging and safety in their community, many will end up committing crimes involving themselves in violence and gangs. For example, many of these kids will go to the Yakuza for protection and a sense of belonging. In an article written by Ramsier and Rumson, they state that if enough people from a given neighborhood engage in a crime, all will be suspects, which in turn reduces the reputation loss to any one person whose crime surfaces. So the people who are a part of the Burakumin community and engage in these activities end up hurting their own community because they are feeding the stereotype that they only cause harm to society. However, since their society has already outed them, they believe that there will be no change, further creating a divide for the people who are trying to break the stereotype. And according to Judith Martin and Thomas Nakayama, it is very difficult to change involuntary identities rooted in ethnicity, gender, or physical ability, so we cannot ignore the ethnic, socioeconomic, or racial positions from which we start our identity journeys. So since many of these kids believe that they won't be getting ahead in society, and that they'll just be shunned from their community forever, it results in them being less likely to continue their education. And in an article, they state that the high school enrollment rate of Buraku children was 30%, was less than half of the national average of 70%. And in the mid 1960s, sorry. So, although the government did abolish the caste system, the Burakumin did not receive much help from them in terms of reparations. So in 1922, they decided to take matters into their own hands and tried to become more politically active, which resulted in the National Lover Society. However, because Japan was preparing for war, they were not able to accomplish anything. So after the war, in 1950, they created the Buraku Liberation League, and you can see here the flag. And they unfortunately were ignored for 10 years before the government decided to take remedial actions and provided younger Burakumin with more education skills and connections, as well as better paying jobs that allowed them to marry and settle more freely outside their communities. The remedial actions that the government took were slightly helpful to the community. However, privacy became an issue for them. And so, like an example, in Yamaguchi's article, she addresses how Japan's family registry keeps a file on every citizen's background going back generations, which allows potential marriage partners or employers to uncover their background, which resulted in a lot of them getting rejected for marriage and for jobs. And it came to a point where the Burakumin got so tired of it and retaliated and petitioned the government to abolish family registries and for restrictions to be placed on who can access this information. However, despite these efforts, employers and families are still able to purchase books that list everyone who was a Burakumin. And although there are no more legal barriers that discriminate against a Burakumin now, there are still challenges that they continue to face from the years of neglect and abuse from society. and the government. And because many of them are not well educated, and that goes for generations, so they're still trying to play catch up. And so there are still those that may be lucky to find a job and get married. However, many of them are still stuck in poverty, joining gangs, and causing violence. Anyways, that was my presentation for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.